I'm Margaret, a 79-year-old gal from Ohio, and I'm so grateful you're here to share a piece of my heart today. It's a chilly spring evening in 2023, and I'm sitting in my cozy living room knitting by the glow of a lamp when the phone rings. I pick it up, expecting my granddaughter Betsy, but instead, a trembling voice says, "Maggie? Is that my Maggie?" My heart stops. It's Henry, my first love, the man I hadn't seen in 60 years, the one I vowed to love forever when I was just 19. After decades apart, after a lifetime of thinking our story was over, he found me again. That moment, hearing his voice after all those years, was like a bolt of lightning. Shocking, overwhelming, and so full of hope it brought me to tears. It's a moment I'll carry forever, and it's just the beginning of a love story that proves miracles do happen, even when you're 79. In this story, I'm going to take you back to 1955, to the summer I met Henry under a golden Ohio sunset, through the heartbreak that tore us apart, and to the incredible day we found each other again. It's a tale of promises kept, love that never faded, and the kind of faith that sees you through a lifetime. I can't wait to share every laugh, every tear, and every dance under the twinkling lights with you. So, grab a cup of coffee, maybe a tissue or two, and let's walk this road together. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you joining me from? Maybe you're from a small town like my Akron, or maybe you've got your own story of love or second chances. If you enjoy this journey, please consider subscribing to the channel or following along for more stories that warm the heart. Your support means the world to an old soul like me, and I'm so excited to have you here. Now, let's step back to that summer of 1955, when a boy with blue eyes changed my life forever. It was the summer of 1955 in Akron, Ohio, a time when life felt like a song waiting to be sung. I was 19, my auburn hair tied back with a red ribbon, wearing a polka dot dress my mother had sewn with love. I stood at the corner of Main Street, waiting for the bus after a long day at Miss Clara's dress shop, where I hemmed skirts and dreamed of something bigger. The sun was setting, painting the dusty road golden, and I was lost in thought, watching maple leaves twirl to the ground. Then, a voice broke through the evening hum. "Excuse me, miss. Do you know the way to the town hall?" I looked up, and my heart skipped a beat. There stood Henry, 25, tall and lanky, with eyes as blue as a July sky. His smile was crooked, warm, like he'd known me forever. Later, he confessed he didn't need directions. He just wanted an excuse to talk. We stood there, chatting as if time didn't exist. He told me about his job at the steel mill, his dream of opening a car repair shop, and how he loved the smell of rain on summer nights. I shared my own dreams of owning a little bakery someday, filling it with the scent of cinnamon rolls. The bus came and went, but I didn't care. Before I finally boarded, Henry called out, "There's a dance Saturday night at the town hall. Come with me?" My cheeks burned, but I nodded, my heart racing like a schoolgirl's. That night, I lay in bed, clutching my pillow, replaying his smile. I didn't know it then, but that moment, those blue eyes meeting mine, was the start of a story that would define my life. I felt like I'd stepped into a movie, one where the girl finds her forever in a single glance. Little did I know how long that forever would take. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of joy. Henry and I became inseparable, two souls dancing to the same tune. Every Saturday, we went to the town hall, where a local band played Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra under strings of twinkling lights. Henry wasn't a graceful dancer. His big feet often tripped over mine, but he held my hand with such certainty, spinning me until I laughed so hard I couldn't breathe. "Maggie, you make this old world shine," he'd whisper, his breath warm against my ear, and I'd blush, feeling like the luckiest girl in Ohio. Our dates were simple, but etched in my heart. One afternoon, he borrowed his brother's rickety bicycle and pedaled us to Lake Erie, where we sat on a patchwork quilt, sharing a chocolate sundae from a paper cup. When a dollop of ice cream fell on his shirt, we laughed until we cried, the lake sparkling behind us. Another day, he gave me a cotton handkerchief, a tiny H embroidered in the corner. "Keep this, Maggie," he said, his eyes serious, "so you'll remember me, no matter what." I tucked it into the wooden box on my dresser, thinking it was just a sweet gesture. We talked about our future, a white picket fence, a couple of kids, and a garden bursting with carnations, my favorite flower for their stubborn beauty. One evening, as we sat on my porch swing, Henry carved our initials, M and H, into the wooden armrest with his pocket knife. "This is us, Maggie," he said, "together forever." I believed him with every fiber of my being. But life, as I'd soon learn, has a way of testing even the truest promises. Fall of 1956 brought a chill that wasn't just in the air. One October evening, Henry came to my house, his usual grin replaced by a shadow. He sat on our worn sofa, hands clasped so tight his knuckles whitened. "Maggie, my family wants me to marry someone else," he said, his voice breaking. His parents had chosen a girl from a wealthy family, someone who'd secure his future and help their struggling business. Henry had fought them, but his father threatened to disown him, and his mother wept, saying he'd break their hearts. "I don't love her, Maggie," he said, tears in his eyes, "but I can't tear my family apart." The room spun. I felt like someone had ripped the air from my lungs. The fire crackled in the hearth, the clock ticked on the mantel, but all I could hear was my heart shattering. We held hands, silent, as tears streamed down my face. "Maggie, you'll always be my true love," he whispered, his voice raw. In that moment of despair, I made a vow I didn't fully understand. If it's not you, Henry, I won't love anyone else. It was the impulsive promise of a 19-year-old girl, but it sank into my soul like a stone. When he left, I clutched his handkerchief and sobbed until dawn, the weight of his absence heavier than I could bear. The next week, I saw him at the town hall with her, his fiancée, a poised girl in a silk dress. I hid in the shadows, watching them dance, my heart aching with every step. I went home, carved a small heart around our initials on the porch swing, and prayed for strength. That vow, born in pain, would guide me through decades of loneliness. Henry's wedding came and went, and Akron became a museum of memories I couldn't escape. Every street corner, every song on the radio screamed his name. I packed my bags and moved to Cleveland, taking a job as a secretary at an insurance firm. My apartment was modest, a single bed, a chipped table, and the wooden box holding Henry's handkerchief. Work kept me busy, typing letters and answering phones. But at night, the silence was deafening. I'd sit by the window, watching the city lights, wondering if Henry was out there, looking at the same stars. I didn't date, though not for lack of offers. There was George, a kind coworker who invited me to a movie in 1960. He was gentle, with a warm laugh, but when he held my hand, I saw Henry's blue eyes instead. I apologized and never saw him again. My heart, stubborn as those carnations I loved, belonged to one man. I filled my days with purpose, caring for my mother when arthritis stole her strength, teaching Sunday school at the Baptist church, and baking butter cookies for the neighborhood kids. I read romance novels, losing myself in stories of love that conquered all, and each one brought a pang of longing. In 1975, a friend mentioned Henry had a son. I sat in my kitchen, stirring tea, and smiled through tears, happy he'd found some joy. I prayed for him every Sunday, asking God to keep him safe. My hair turned gray, my hands grew wrinkled, but that handkerchief stayed pristine in its box, a relic of a promise I couldn't break. By my 70th birthday, I thought my love story was just a faded photograph, a chapter closed. I was wrong. On March 15th, 2023, I was knitting a green scarf in my cozy living room, the radio softly playing Elvis's Love Me Tender. The phone rang, and I assumed it was my granddaughter Betsy checking in, but a trembling voice said, "Maggie? Is that my Maggie?" My heart stopped. It was Henry. Ruth, a friend from church, had given him my number after his wife passed from heart disease the previous year. "I've thought of you every day, Maggie," he said, his voice heavy with years of regret. We talked until midnight, the hours melting away. He spoke of his marriage, stable but never passionate, a life where he played the dutiful husband and father to 2 sons. "I was happy enough," he said, "but you were always my heart's home." I shared my quiet life, caring for my mother until her passing, teaching kids Bible stories, and keeping that handkerchief like a sacred vow. "You kept it?" he asked, choking up. "Every day, Henry," I said, tears falling as I traced the H with my finger. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, the moonlight casting shadows, and memories flooded back. Our dances, our Sunday, our carved initials. The next day, I found an old Elvis record in a thrift shop, and when Can't Help Falling in Love played, I wept, feeling God's hand in this moment. I knew this call wasn't chance. It was a second chance, a gift I never dared hope for. After weeks of nightly calls, Henry asked to see me. "Maggie, I need to hold your hand again," he said. I agreed, but doubt gnawed at me. I was 79, my face lined with age, my hands shaky from years of knitting. Would he see the girl he loved? I chose a light blue dress, pinned my mother's silver brooch to it, and slipped his handkerchief into my purse, a talisman against my fears. Standing outside a Cleveland coffee shop, my heart pounded like it did in 1955. When Henry stepped from his old pickup truck, his hair white as snow, but his eyes still that piercing blue, I burst into tears. He wore a blue shirt, as if we'd planned it, and his smile was the same one that stole my heart. "Maggie," he said, his voice breaking, and he hugged me so tight I felt his heartbeat. The scent of his aftershave, the warmth of his arms. It was 1955 again. We sat in the shop, ordering coffee and oatmeal cookies. He remembered I liked to dunk my cookies, and I teased him about owing me a sundae. When I showed him the handkerchief, he took my hand, tears in his eyes. "Maggie, I lived a life, but you were my biggest regret," he said. We walked to a nearby park, sitting on a bench under an oak tree. A young couple passed, reminding us of ourselves, and Henry squeezed my hand. "I should have fought for you," he said. I touched his cheek, forgiving him in that moment. Time hadn't just stopped. It had given us back to each other. Henry and I refused to waste another day. He drove from Akron weekly, bringing carnations and his slightly burnt homemade cookies. We revisited old haunts, like the town hall, now a library. Standing in its parking lot, we closed our eyes, imagining the band playing, and Henry hummed a tune, swaying with me. "Maggie, I want every day with you," he said, his voice firm despite his age. One crisp fall afternoon in 2023, he took me to a carnation field outside Cleveland, the flowers glowing pink and white under the sunset. He knelt, his knees creaking, and held out a silver ring etched with M and H. "Maggie, will you be my wife?" he asked, his eyes shining. I sobbed, seeing the boy who carved our initials, the man who found me again. "Henry, I've waited my whole life to say yes," I said. We embraced, the wind rustling the flowers, and a group of children nearby clapped, thinking we were part of a play. We laughed, feeling the world cheer us on. That night, we sat on my porch, the same swing where our initials still stood, now weathered but enduring. Henry traced the carving, promising to make up for lost time. I felt young, alive, ready to write the ending we deserved. In October 2023, we married at First Baptist Church in Cleveland. I wore a simple white dress, Henry's handkerchief tucked in my sleeve, and walked down the aisle with my grandson's arm for support. Henry stood at the altar, dashing in a blue suit, his smile brighter than the stained glass windows. As he vowed to love me until his last breath, I saw our whole story, the joy, the pain, the miracle of this moment. "Maggie, you're my home," he said, and I wept, knowing I'd found mine too. We danced to "Can't Help Falling in Love," my steps slow but my heart soaring. Henry spun me gently, whispering, "You're still my girl." Our family and friends, many in tears, toasted to our love. Betsy, my granddaughter, said, "Grandma, this is better than any movie." To me, it was life, messy, beautiful, and worth every tear. Now, Henry and I live in a little Ohio house. We sip coffee each morning, tend our carnation garden, and play old Elvis records, dancing in our living room. One night, we found my old porch swing in storage, initials intact, and set it up in our yard. Sitting there, we talk about our kids, his sons, my nieces, and the years we missed, but mostly the ones we have left. If you ask me, I'll tell you. Love knows no age. At 19 or 79, if you hold your heart open, you can find the one who makes your soul sing. Henry is my song, and I'll sing it until my last day. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and please share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear what this means to you. Your voice matters, and I look forward to connecting with all of you.